All right. I pressed the button, so let's see what happens.
All right. It's interesting. What's the vibe like over with the Fear the Wave guys right now
As far as the
with the Fritz news?
the podcast or the show.
Yeah, yeah. Or just how are the guys feeling after the Willie Fritz news and this Saturday?
I mean, it's taking everybody
Fritz news.
um by shock. But I feel like majority of everybody is positive about it. Everybody is, positive about where Tulane is as a program, positive about where the program is headed, and really motivated and fired up about making sure that we keep ascending and going forward, rather than falling off and letting the fire go out. So I mean, it does kind of sting a little bit to see Coach Fritz leave, because for guys like me, Coach Fritz is all I've known at Tulane. So it's definitely different. But I mean, things happen like this all the time in the world of college football, and you got to be able to adjust. You got to be able to keep moving forward. And I definitely know that the people over there calling the shots and getting things done have that same mentality.
Nick, do you know Isaac?
I do.
Yeah. What's up, Isaac?
Looks like he's on the way to class.
Yeah. All right. You ready to record?
Yeah, I think we're going. I think we're going.
Okay. I'm gonna record
I
on
just
a on
posted
Zoom.
I just posted the link.
All right, cool.
Cool. Sweet. So Nick Anderson, the one and only Tulane legend. Welcome to the Uptown Update, man.
What's up, man? I appreciate y'all for having me.
Nick, we
Well,
appreciate you and all you've done for the program, laying the foundation and reaching the peak with that Cotton Bowl victory. It's been an amazing few years watching you play, but obviously this last Saturday was a little bit tough. And with the news of Coach Fritz leaving, what did Coach Fritz mean to you?
Overall, man, I couldn't thank Coach Fritz enough. For me being a guy that was not really recruited heavily out of high school, taking my chances and going to Jones Junior College and playing for a semester and having Coach Fritz come himself personally to meet me and offer me a scholarship to play football at one of the most profound universities in the South, it is a real blessing. Is a real blessing. And Coach Fritz helped me grow as a man with the opportunities that he gave me to come to Tulane. And I'm forever thankful for him. He was just a great guy, one of those guys that, really demands the most out of his players, really pushes for his players to be better men, more so than football players. And he's a dynamic and wonderful head coach, one of the best in the game. And so it's kind of sad to see him go, but it's also a blessing. And having been played for him.
yeah, Nick, I totally understand that, and that's awesome to hear. You mentioned something that you transferred to Tulane. So what kind of went into that decision when you decided to transfer schools, and why did you ultimately end up playing for Tulane and Coach Fritz?
Most definitely, man. Coming out of high school, I was a first team all state. I had crazy stats. I graduated number 3 in my class, but I just couldn't get recruited out of being, at a small city like Vicksburg, Mississippi. A lot of teams passed on me because of my height. A lot of SEC schools that came by. And I just, I had a lot of FCS offers, but growing up in SEC country, you dream of playing football at the highest level on the FBS level. So I just took a chance on myself. I've always been the type of guy to have extreme faith in God and extreme faith in my capabilities and the capabilities that He blessed me with. And I just, took that gamble and went to junior college route because I knew what I could produce. And I went there and balled out, and Tulane came knocking. And when Tulane first came, Ole Miss had came like the week before, and when Ole Miss offered me, I was like, man, it's no question. Like I don't want to talk to any other school. And then Coach Fritz came himself personally. He was the first coach that I met in person from Tulane. He came, drove up, and came to see me, and he offered me a scholarship right there in person. And I told him I'll get back to him. And so when I walked out of the room, I went and talked to my defense coordinator. He asked me how it went. I told him, I said, I told him I'm gonna get back to him, but more than likely I'm gonna go to Ole Miss. My defense coordinator said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Do you not know the caliber of academics and the caliber of, the scholarship that you're about to receive at Tulane?" I was like, I mean, I know it's an academic school, but I had never really heard of the school as far as football. I'm like, man, I got Ole Miss offer. I'm going to play for Ole Miss. I'm from Mississippi. I want to stay home and play for Ole Miss. And so my coach was like, look, Nick, I know you want to stay here and play for Ole Miss, but you got to think Ole Miss didn't offer you out of high school. It took you going to junior college for them to come back and offer you. I feel like it's best for you to go to Tulane. You can go to Tulane, you can make an impact, you can make a name for yourself, you can be one of the premier guys on that team because they actually value you and value you at your position versus Ole Miss just recruiting you because you one of the best in the state. They're kind of checking off a box. He was like, you don't want to go to Ole Miss and just be a guy. Your goal is to go to the NFL. You can go to the NFL from Tulane. You can go down there and create a legacy for yourself. And the rest was like, okay, I took it in one ear, went out the other. And so I ended up coming on my unofficial visit to Tulane. The Wave played Navy. I just became bowl eligible. And at first I was like, man, I'm not coming here. Like this team struggled to be bowl eligible. Um, it was hot. I was sweating. It took us forever to find parking. And so I was like, man, I'm not coming here, man. I'm going to Ole Miss. And so my coach begged me. He said, just go on the official visit. And so I was like, okay, let me go on the official visit. Came on the official visit and had a grand time, an amazing time on the official visit. Was able to talk to some of the players at the time, like Zach Harris, Marvin Moody, and ask them about Coach Moots. And they were able to explain, how genuine Coach Moots and his family was, how much impactful Coach Fritz was to the program, and how Coach Fritz was determined to really get things changed. And that even though they barely made a bowl game that year, that, the future for Tulane was bright. And I could just tell that they really meant that. I could tell that the players really believed in the culture that was being established at Tulane. And I really just prayed about it. And I was like, okay, man, I really want to go to Ole Miss. But, maybe Tulane is a spot. My mom fell in love with the school, and that was big for me. And it wasn't far from home. And so I was like, okay, you know what? Academics has always been my thing. There will be life after football. So why not? Let me go to Tulane and see if I can beat a man. Let's see if my coach is right. And he was.
He definitely was, Nick. It seems like you really just kind of listened to the people you trust and the people that, cared about you to help make your decision. What do you think is going through some of these players' heads then when someone they trust, like Coach Fritz, tells them that, he's leaving to go to another school?
I mean, the players would definitely take it tough because, like I said, Coach Fritz was like a father figure to many. And so, being a player that's leaving from home and going to a program, you hate to lose your coach because your coach is somewhat of a comfort zone for you being away from home. And so I can only imagine how those guys are feeling. I know they're, kind of hurt about it. But at the end of the day, you got to be mature. Coming to college is your transition to manhood. And in life, as a man, you're going to always go through trials and tribulations. But what determines your true spirit is how you get through it. So I just been, talking to the guys here and there and just telling them, man, don't make any emotional decisions. Coach Fritz just left. You do have no idea, who they're about to hire. Just be patient. Don't be so quick to jump in the portal because the portal isn't as bright as it seems. And just make a smart decision. Don't just make an emotional decision because things are going crazy right now. Really sit down, talk to your family, pray about it. And just you want to make a quality decision because this decision would affect your future. So I just feel like, the guys, they understand the love and the care and concern that Coach Fritz really had for Tulane. They know that, his decision to leave wasn't negatively against them. And so they really, I feel like, a lot of guys have a positive outlook on everything. We've had a couple guys jump in the portal, but when you look at the guys that jumped in the portal, it was all circumstantial to their own specific situations, not, Coach Fritz leaving. So that's a positive thing. I feel like, the team is gonna stick together and hang in there despite this. And a lot of things that they got to realize, and overall the Tulane community has to realize in general, is that yes, Coach Fritz left. Yes, Coach Fritz was very impactful to the things that have been done here at Tulane University. However, Coach Fritz left a team that is a championship team, a team that has won 11 games, a team that has the opportunity to win 12 and go 12-2 back-to-back years, which is still something that is rare across college football right now. So he left the program in good hands. And the quickest way for the program to fall out of good hands and fall and really self-destruct on everything that's been built is guys just dropping the ball, panicking, and leaving. So I feel like the biggest thing right now is for everybody to just stay calm, stay cool and collected, let things work itself out, and just know that everything always does.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It makes a lot of sense, and it reassures fans like us. There's definitely a lot of uncertainty right now, and I think most of it is probably coming from the outside. It's the guys inside that really matter, and I'm sure Coach Willie Fritz and people like you hopefully built a lasting foundation and culture for this team. So I think there's a lot of really good things to look forward to for this team, and get excited about the next head coach rather than focus on losing Willie Fritz. Nick, I wanted to ask you about the SMU game. What did you see? Why was our offense so ineffective? And just what happened in your eyes?
In my eyes, I just feel that it came down to the lack of execution. In the championship game, you got to realize, despite the other team's record, there's a championship on the line. Guys are going to put their best foot forward whenever there's a championship on the line. And SMU put their best foot forward. They came out, they played tremendous defense. Their offense scored when needed, and we didn't make enough plays on our side of the ball late in the game to really pull away from those guys and end it. The defense started off the game hot. I mean, turnover on the first play of the game by Devin Deal, which was phenomenal. Cam Pedesclo had a pick, interception. Jarius Monroe had an interception. The offense was, firing all cylinders at first, through the big touchdown in the third quarter. But in the championship game, that fuel, that fire has to keep going. I also feel that the crowd died. The crowd definitely died in the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter. I was on the sideline having conversations with one of the people in the stands, and I could hear them clearly. And that's just one of the things that was the difference last year than this year. And it's no blame to anybody. But that's just one of the things you got to have in a championship game. You got to have the crowd into it. You have to, have players on the sideline juiced up. You got to, take advantage of opportunities. We missed a lot of opportunities. We had a lot of drop balls. We put the ball on the ground a couple times. So it's just, we had a lot of missed tackles, guys not taking great angles. So we just didn't play championship football on Saturday. And it's not one of the things to really hang your head about. You got the opportunity to play in the championship game. You lost. That's the reality, man. You lost the game. But know that you got one more opportunity to go 1-0. Don't let that one championship loss be the end of a dynasty that's being built here at Tulane. You can always come back next year, but in order to come back next year, you got to start by going 1-0 in this bowl game. This bowl game is so important because it will set the trajectory back in the right direction for the years to come for Tulane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we lost a championship game, but the fact of the matter is we lost a championship game. It's put it into perspective again. We come a long, long way. Even Georgia loses championship games. Even Alabama loses championship games, right? So
Jack and I have been joking. So he went to the game on Saturday and we lost. I went to the championship game last year and we won and stormed the field. And then Jack went to the regular season UCF game last year and we lost. So I think we're going to ban Jack from
I
going
don't
to
think I'm
Yeoman
allowed to
Stadium.
go back anymore. I think it's my fault, Nick.
Things happen, man. Things happen.
Well, we got some audience questions going on. Two-time fantasy football champion said, "Congrats, by the way, on your fantasy football championship." He said, Nick, do you think the coaching question left a cloud over the team before the game?
I don't think so. Coach Fritz has been heavily sought after every year since I've been at Tulane, aside from the 2-10 year, in which I still think some schools was trying to get him. Last year he was sought after. Last year it actually was confirmed that he was going to Georgia Tech. It got released the Sunday before the championship game, so we had to deal with that for a week. But I just feel like, at the end of the day, the players are the actual ones that participate in the games. The players are the guys that really put in the hard work to get to a championship game. So I definitely do not feel like those guys were down or really thinking about the possibility of Coach Fritz leaving and going to Houston prior to the game. I know those guys were locked in all week. If I had to bet all the money, I would say that they really didn't pay any mind, because when it first dropped, I really didn't think it was legit at all. But I mean, things happen, certain things happen and certain things happen out of your control. And it's been one of the things that, I tried to preach as a captain last year was, control the controllables. The only thing you can control is making it to each and every Saturday and putting your best foot forward. So I know those guys probably wasn't really thinking about that. I don't feel like it played a role on the championship game. I just feel like, just was a lack of execution, and SMU definitely wanted it more than we did on Saturday.
And I was there.
What kind of coach do you think that Tulane should hire? As in, like, what kind of qualities are you looking for in the next head coach at Tulane?
Somebody that is a player's coach, somebody that's coming in really understanding what has been built at Tulane, and somebody that can take that and grow it, understands how to sustain success, understands handling success, and understands how hard it was and the trials and tribulations Tulane went through to obtain it, and how important it is to keep that going. So I'm not looking for anybody who per se is dominant as far as they're the smartest offensive guy, they're the smartest defensive guy. I'm looking for somebody that's passionate and a great leader and knows how to really carry a legacy as far as a culture and get things going and keep things going with the wave. That was Coach Fritz's MO. Coach Fritz wasn't the type of coach, even though he was very, very experienced and very intelligent. Coach Fritz wasn't the type of coach that really drew up X's and O's, but he got his guys to go out every Saturday and perform to their highest. And that's what I expect to be the continued process when it comes to the next head coach at Tulane University. Somebody that, can really rally the guys, rally the troops, really get the guys to play for something bigger than themselves and continue this championship mindset that we have brought to Uptown.
So kind of like a culture builder, not necessarily like a tactician.
Most definitely.
That's interesting. I know a lot of times when coaching spots open up, people want to hire like the best play caller or, the guy with the innovative scheme and stuff. But you can definitely see it in college and in the NFL. Sometimes those guys don't always work out.
Most
Where,
definitely. Because
yeah.
when you have a dynamic play caller or you have a guy that has the best scheme, or coming off a year where he had the most prolific offense or defense, it was based upon the players that he had. And if you have somebody that can't rally the players or not smart enough to put players in positions to make plays, then it's not going to matter. A year later, he's not going to be the best offensive coordinator, offensive or defensive coordinator if he can't get the right guys in the right positions. So I feel like, with X's and O's, you can have the greatest scheme in the world, but if you're not invested enough in your team to know which guys can do which things, then it goes out the window.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense, especially at a school like Tulane, where it might be hard to get the most. You're not getting 5-star Alabama recruits. You're getting guys that want it more, and you need a coach who can rally those guys and attract those guys. I had more of a fun question. The question I wanted to ask: what was your favorite memory at Tulane? And I'm gonna guess the AAC championship. But then also, what was your favorite like individual play that you made at Tulane?
Oh, you're right. The AAC championship will always be my best memory at Tulane. Just that night, man, was special. That week was special. just coming home after we beat Cincinnati and watching the people from the conference set up the stadium and just I went to the stadium every night before the championship game and just walked around and prayed and really just envisioned us winning and holding up that trophy. I remember the first time I saw the trophy, I was like, man, it's not leaving the stadium. So just to build up in that week to know that we set out at the beginning of the year in January with a common goal as a team, not an individual goal, but a team goal to bring a championship to Uptown and to just see it in person. I tell everybody that asks me that question that I wish I could have put a recorder in my brain so everybody could see what I saw. Just the fans rushing the field, the fireworks, the tears, the confetti, just the preparation, everything that went into that. Everybody talks about how grand the Cotton Bowl was, and the Cotton Bowl was a crazy and very prolific game, but we would not have been in the Cotton Bowl without the AAC championship game, and that game will always be dear to my heart. As far as my favorite play, I'm gonna say my favorite play was last year, Kansas State, when I had my 2 fourth down stops. I
All
feel
right.
like that was the combination of my favorite plays. Just really just being a student of the game. I feel like that was the best way to describe the way that I played last year. And really just seeing Kansas State getting certain formations that the scout team did a great job of showing us throughout the week and being able to make a play that I've been practicing all week really just, shows the amount of effort that our coaches put into game planning and putting us in the right position. So me being able to make those plays really just stuck out to me, man. And those are big plays that help us beat a great opponent. So I'm happy for that.
My favorite Nick Anderson play is the forced fumble versus Houston, especially now. We got a few other good questions in the chat. I think we can sort of group these together. So first of all, Nick, do you think the administration is getting more serious about Tulane athletics? And then also, how can the non-big donor like help support change and demand the right kind of change to help Tulane football and Tulane athletics as a whole?
Okay, to answer your first question, I definitely feel like the administration is starting to take Tulane football more serious than the past. I'm not saying that people didn't beforehand, but as the team, you have to give them something to work with. And I feel like with us winning the championship last year, with the team being as good as they've been this year, we have given the powers at Tulane the opportunity to really make change, to really implement different things that they're trying to implement. One of the things we have to understand is things do take time. You can't flip a switch and things, just flip just like that. So I do feel like everybody in the powers above are doing things to get Tulane ascending in the right direction, but it just takes time. Tulane was behind for years. Um, I wasn't at the school, so I can't really speak on why Tulane was behind prior to me getting there. But I do know that since I've been there, Tulane has made strides each and every year. And I just feel like, those strides have to be continued. They have to come at a more rapid pace in order for us to catch up with people that have better facilities, people that have the better support, people that have the donors, especially with NIL being such a huge factor, especially in the transfer portal. It's things that we have to catch up on. But I feel like the people that are calling the shots aren't, oblivious to what's going on. They understand the reality of college football that we're stepping into. And I trust and know that we have people in place to really get those changes done. What was the second question?
Yes, that was a lot at once. But the second question was, how can the non-big donor go about demanding change and help supporting the wave?
Promoting the collective. The reality that we're in right now with not only college football, but collegiate sports as a whole is coming down to NIL. Just we have to, embrace that. Embrace that that's the new reality of college sports, and the collective has to be supported, whether that's retweeting, whether that's coming to fundraisers, even if you're not donating, showing that support, showing that we have people around, or just a simple retweet. Like I said, just sharing it. But that has to be a focus, because you got to think a lot of student athletes, or the caliber of student athletes that we're trying to get to come to Tulane, some of them can't afford living in New Orleans. The cost of living in New Orleans is consistently rising. And so kids don't want money just to, blow off. It's like, okay, me specifically, I was in a position my people could not afford for me to come to Tulane. Last year when I was on the team and I was getting, some NIL money here and there, it helped me with extra groceries for the house, gas, just living arrangements. And I just feel like, as an alum, if you really want to help this program and you may not have the finance to do so, simply using your voice and expressing the importance of the collective really can help somebody that can. And I feel like that's really the biggest thing, is just, everybody has a voice. Everybody has one of these at their fingertips. And I feel like just using that in a positive light really will help the school in the whole, versus, feeding negativity. And that was one of my things yesterday. Negativity only brings more negativity. What can you do in a positive sense to bring change to this school, such as, tweeting, okay, we want this to be changed, go support the collective,
Mhm.
go to the basketball games, go to the tennis games. Football isn't the only sport, even though football brings in a lot of revenue. Supporting these other sports will bring more attention to Tulane, to where people could say, okay, we're supporting here. Let us throw something else at the football team.
Yeah, the collective is absolutely awesome. We got to hear a little bit about how it's allocated and how it's used. And I don't know, it seems a lot more effective than when you hear about some of these guys getting these $1 million NIL deals from ads, and they just never work out. So I'm very proud of how the collective allocates it all. There's a good question here from Chase. He said, "What are your thoughts on Jesus Grubbs and Jared Small stepping up this year? Maybe some of your buddies in the linebacking core and how they've grown throughout this year."
Most definitely. Definitely want to give a shout out to Corey Platt. I
Yeah.
feel like if Corey hadn't got injured, he would have had a first team all conference year, like 15 tackles and 1.5 sacks in his first game starting. Phenomenal. I remember last year, his first game getting in versus UMass, he caught an interception. Like the guy's a legit ball player. And whenever he comes back, he's gonna be a sight to see in Uptown. As far as Jesus, just really proud of Zeus. I remember Zeus coming in as a freshman, and just trying to find his way. And to see that, he was number one on the team in tackles, got, I want to say, second or third team all conference honors. Really just shows his development, and I'm proud of him. He is a guy that loves to work. He actually called me this morning and asked me could I come help him run through some drills and stuff in the morning. But he's just one of those guys that's a workhorse. He wants to be great. He wants to make the most of his opportunities. So I'm very proud of him. Very proud of him. Not a big vocal guy, but he definitely leads with his pads and his play. Happy that we got Tyler Grubbs, a very experienced guy, somebody that people forgot was a freshman All-American in 2020. A guy that plays hard-nosed football. He really plays the linebacker position like it's supposed to be played. So I'm very proud of us getting him and the benefits that he's brought, coming back home and playing for this university. You can tell that he has a pride for being back home and playing in the city of New Orleans and really playing for Tulane. He expresses that, and he's just a great person overall. And last but certainly not least, man, I really have a love for Jared Small, man. A guy that has been through a lot, a guy that reminds me a lot of myself, being a smaller guy, but just playing with that chip on his shoulder, being able to do it all, rush the passer. He has multiple sacks on the season, a lot of tackles in open space, being able to cover, a guy that, also shows up and is ready to work. I'm definitely proud of that linebacker group, especially with, everybody in the media really questioning them and thinking they were going to be the weakest link. To replace me and Dorian, those guys didn't miss a beat, and I'm very proud of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I thought
awesome.
that
Go ahead, Reed.
But I was just gonna say, I thought the defense was absolutely incredible this year. Even in the championship game, there was a lot of bending. There was not a lot of breaking, and all the turnovers forced. Just absolutely insane. And Sheil Wood, great coach too, at least from what I can see.
He is very intelligent coach.
Speaking of defensive coordinators, y'all, Nick, what do you think about Coach Ham? Do you think he deserves an interview for the job?
Man, I love Coach Hamp. I feel like he is more than deserving of an interview for this job. He's experienced. He has been a defense coordinator at two Power Five institutions. Came back to Tulane, and really that's out of his love for the school, and his love for being here. He always, whenever we talk to him, he say he always misses New Orleans. He loves New Orleans. He's a true players coach. He is, man. Anybody tell you that, Coach Hamp was one of my most favorite coaches to play for because he genuinely cares about the game. He's a very intelligent coach. He put us in a lot of positions. Really taught us a lot of things that carry on to the next level. And he's a dynamic recruiter, man. Anybody that was recruited by Coach Hemp can definitely tell you that he genuinely shows his care and concerns for the development of his players. And I feel like he will be dynamic. I feel like it would definitely be somebody that will be carrying Coach Fritz's legacy and Coach Fritz's principles, simply because he's been up under Fritz for so long that I know Fritz had a impact on him as well. I feel like it would be dynamic. I would love, me personally, I would love to see him back in Uptown, but I'm not the one making the hires or the decisions. But it would be a blessing to see that.
Has to be one of the best player developers that ever came through
Most,
Tulane.
most definitely. I mean, from having me and Dorian to Macon Clark, developing him, Larry Brooks, Bo Pete, PJ Hall, who was dynamic, Rod Teamer. I mean, the list goes on. The guys that he's developed and helped get to the next level. I mean, he's dynamic.
Yeah, we got a good question here. So I guess if you're trying to recruit a high school student or a transfer or something, what would you say makes Tulane football different or more special than other schools?
I would tell the recruit that Tulane gives you an opportunity to play high level football as well as receive a high level degree. It's a school that is small, but because it's small, you have the opportunity to create relationships with people that last you a lifetime. You have a chance to really get to know your professors, get to know people on campus. It's not one of those schools where, you have to feel, like you're inferior to people that are walking around you. It's a school that has really grown to love its football program, a school that, shows its support, is fired up. It's a school that gives you an opportunity to get to know people from all different cultural backgrounds from all over the country. And just the resources outside of football is limitless. I feel like it's an opportunity to really go to an institution that would give you more outside of the game than any other institution will across the country. And it's just a place that is booming with things to do. I mean, the city of New Orleans is amazing. There's always something going on. The home of Mardi Gras, which is very exciting. And I just feel like the way that Tulane is going and the direction is going, why would you not want to be a part of the history that's being made in Uptown? So that would be my pitch to a transfer or a high school person that's trying.
There you go. Cut and paste. Send it to them, the new coaches.
Nick, how do you as a player and as a team come back from a disappointing loss? Southern Miss last year was a disappointing loss, but it seemed like it really kicked this team into gear. Obviously, we're coming off the loss against SMU, but we have a huge bowl game against a Power Five opponent. How are they going to be motivated?
Just keeping the main thing, which is going 1-0. I feel like 1-0 is something that has been cemented to this program. And as long as you got another opportunity to right a wrong, which was losing the conference championship, you got to go forward and you got to take advantage of that opportunity. I mean, you got the opportunity to, double the record from last year, as well as go out and finish and go into the offseason with a win. So why not take advantage of that opportunity against a worthy opponent that is Power Five in Virginia Tech? Why not? You go into a bowl game. 2 years ago, we wish we would have been able to go to a bowl game after going 2-10. So don't take those things for granted. Yes, it's devastating that we lost the conference championship, but the conference championship was played Saturday. Leave it as Saturday. Like, there's nothing you can do to go back and change it. SMU is not even about to be in the conference anymore. So there's legitimately nothing you can do to right that wrong aside from going forward and winning the bowl game. And so that's what I would tell the guys in the locker room. We have another game. We got another opportunity. Let's right the wrong that we did last weekend.
Nick, do you think there's a power conference that Tulane could join, or one that would be a good fit?
I mean, just any opportunity to go to a Power Five or a Power Four conference now would definitely be a blessing. Um, I don't know how the things work financially as far as how beneficial it would be for Tulane to go at this moment. I feel me personally, I'm not very educated on the process of going to another conference, but I feel like Tulane is in a great spot in the American and continue to dominate the American for a little while prior to moving up. Simply how UCF was able to do it and eventually move up to the Big 12. They dominated the American for a while and became a consistent team that, fought for a championship in the American. I feel like, doing that will grow the support and stabilize the support of the fan base and the support of the football team in general by saying, okay, Tulane has been a monster in the American for X amount of years. It's time for them to go be a dominant force in the Power Four conference. And then also with everything going on with the conferences right now, you want to be mindful before you just move up, because you have this team going here, this team going there. We have stability here in the American. We can control the American. Why not dominate the American for at least 2 to 3 more seasons? And then after we built that legacy here in the American and made it undoubtable to the Power Four teams outside, then we have a resume to where all 4 conferences may be like, okay, we definitely want Tulane to come join us.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I mean, you want to talk about getting ready and competing and like building a strong culture. There's no better way to do that than winning and consistently winning and showing that it's more than just one coach, right? More than just one group of players that's doing it. You have to build a winning program to get this to happen. So I totally agree with you there, Nick.
And get to go to the playoffs next year if you
That's
want.
Right, precisely.
Be pretty sick.
Sweet. Well, I want to keep you too long. If you want to hang around, Nick, I'm sure everyone's loving hearing from you. You're the man.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're up to now?
So right now, I'm currently a free agent. My agent has been in talk with a couple teams. I can't disclose the teams right now. But just been training and getting after it, staying prepared to go back to the NFL. And aside from that, me and Larry Brooks, former Cincinnati Bengal and Tulane safety, we started a podcast called Talking That Yeah. And it's on all social media platforms. So we're trying to get that up and running. I'm also establishing my nonprofit, which will be Faith with the one instead of the I. And it's going to be really built around the development of the youth, as well as, bringing attention to community service, things like homeless awareness and things like that. So I've been, dipping and dabbling in different things that I want to really have established off the field. That way, when I go back on the field, I can already have those things up and running.
There you go. Everyone check out Talking That Yeah and Faith with the one instead of an I. I'm sure, Nick, anything you do is going to be awesome. You always execute at a high level. So everyone make sure you check those out.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Selfishly, I want you to be on the coaching staff at Tulane soon, but I'll wait for your NFL career. Hopefully, goes a long time, and then you come coach at Tulane.
Most definitely, man. I asked the good Lord for maybe six good seasons in the NFL, and then I'll hang it up and see what coaching has to offer.
There you go. Well, there's a bunch of teams that could use you. I know my Jets are having some trouble right now. They could use a locker room guy like you, Nick, who can really help turn the culture around, just like you at Tulane.
Most definitely. I talked to the Jets a lot during my pre-draft process.
Tanzel's up there.
I was told they were gonna make some moves on draft day, but I'm very understanding of how the process works now, and I know that things happen. But I got love for the coaches at the Jets. They were nice guys.
Is
Well,
Perry
that's good.
Nickerson? Is he still on the Jets?
He's on the Dolphins now,
Or
I think.
Dolphins?
Yeah.
Dolphins.
We
Uh,
haven't done an NFL wave update in a while, Reed. Maybe
I
it's
know.
a good time to do one.
Green Wave Man says he loves you, Nick, and he's praying for you. And then he also asked earlier, I saw, uh, do you think that there should be another Tulane super fan? Would you be interested in seeing another Tulane like superhero out there?
I mean, not really. I got love for I got love for the Green Wave, man. I think he's original and iconic. And I can't really just, just like, my guy Coach Fritz, wearing the red now, even though I really didn't like Houston when we played against them. I just wouldn't think it looked right seeing another role wave superhero. I think the Green
Yeah.
Wave man has that spot on lock. I just couldn't see nobody else doing it.
Yeah, Green Wave Man this year, he got a lot of attention. I think he was on Scott Van Pelt at least one time. There were a couple of big like Twitter pages like Big Cat. He quote tweeted us twice with Green Wave Man videos. So he's getting a lot of popularity out there.
Yeah, for real. I think our most ever like viewed thing was a pregame interview with Green Wave Man asking him how he was feeling about the matchup. So
He's a he's
definitely iconic.
he's a he's a dynamic person. I've had the pleasure I've had the pleasure of actually meeting him without the mask, him and his wife, and they are two dynamic people. Have genuine love for Tulane, genuine support. Definitely been in my corner for the longest, and I'm very appreciative of that relationship that I have with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of dynamic people, we're gonna have our student insider Isaac Popper join in a minute. So you can look up for that. I know he's excited to talk to you, Nick. Cool. Well, there's a few coaching candidates out there that I've seen. I don't know if you have many thoughts on them, Nick, but we've got John Summerall, the coach of Troy, GJ Kine or Kiney, the coach of Texas State, and then Baker, I forgot his first name, but the defensive coordinator for Mizzou. I saw all three of those guys were poking around, looking for the Tulane job.
Okay, this is interesting, man. It's interesting. I'm not familiar with all those coaches. I know Coach Summerall. He's been doing a great job over at Troy. Um, I want to say he recruited me at some point, maybe when I was in junior college, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but I mean, it's dynamic, man. It really just shows the reality that this is a great place. It really shows the reality of Tulane is in a good place to have all these coaches trying to come here and coach. So things are more positive than they seem, which is a true blessing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's Blake Baker. He played linebacker at Tulane, just like you, Nick. And Coach Summerall was a defensive coordinator at Tulane for a season. So yeah. Do you personally know Coach Orgeron?
Yeah, that's my dog, man. I love Coach. Time I see him, he tells me how he should have offered me when he was at LSU, but Willie got one hell of a linebacker. And I told him you should offer me too, man, because LSU was my dream place to play coming out of high school. But got love for Coach O, man. He's a dynamic person, dynamic coach.
Yeah, he looks good in a Tulane shirt. It always makes me smile when I see him on the sideline.
Do you think he'd help build a good culture at Tulane?
I definitely think he would. He's familiar with the area, familiar with being a coach in Louisiana. However, I think LSU paid him too much to for him to come back to football.
Yeah.
He's living his best life, man. I don't blame him.
Yeah, he's getting the bag. I got more of a fun question. What team did you hate the most and what team did you love playing the most?
Oh, I hated Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated Houston, which is why everything was crazy because I love Coach Fritz, but I hate Houston. I hated Houston. Um, the team that I loved playing the most was probably going to UCF.
UCF.
UCF was always fun playing in the bounce house. They always were a competitive team. Um, and yeah, I say right up under UCF, the team that I loved playing was Cincinnati. Cincinnati was a cool team to play. Because the first time I played them was the 2-10 season in which they were number 2 in the nation. We almost beat them, should have beaten them, and then going up to Nippert and getting the win. We just knew when we played Cincinnati, we were going to play a worthy opponent. And I like playing those type of games. I want to say the second team that I disliked the most in conference had to be a tie between maybe Tulsa and SMU for number 2.
Yeah.
Tulsa just had those players in Tulsa just were always just grimy, talk a lot of noise. And SMU just were they just thought they were better than Tulane all the time, which is why I hate the results on Saturday. But
Yeah.
I'm glad last year we beat the brakes off them.
Yeah,
So
that was awesome.
That was cathartic for me, Nick. I live in Dallas, and so I always a lot of SMU friends always hear it from them whenever we would play. So last year was awesome, and then driving back from the Cotton Bowl to Dallas, the whole skyline was lit up green, and we had the Tulane logo, and I was like, I ain't never seen that for SMU. So that was cool, but I didn't check on Saturday night. I had a lunch.
I was curious, what's it like playing Navy, especially on defense? You get a very unique perspective.
Actually, I never beat Navy, and that's one of the things that I do regret in my time in Tulane. I never got to beat them. But I would say they're one of my more favorite teams to play, especially being a linebacker and being able to make up to 15 tackles a game against them. However, like I said, were never able to beat them during my time at Tulane. But they're a respectable program. They play hard. Those guys really play with a big chip on their shoulder. Excited to see those guys play Army on Saturday. I watch their game every year. Just old fashioned, hard nosed football, running the ball, making tackles. So it's definitely you have to be disciplined to scheme against those guys because those guys run a scheme that if your eyes are in the right place, you don't make your right keys, you can give up a touchdown quick. But definitely enjoy playing against Navy.
If you could play one team in the whole country, what team would you play?
LSU.
Yeah,
Yeah.
common answer.
I wish we played them while I was at Tulane.
Yeah, it's a bad situation. It has to do with money. I don't know why they won't play us. Just kind of sucks. It'd be nice to bring it back.
I think they're scared to get an early loss and not be able to make a run for a national championship. That's what I think.
Well, who canceled? Mississippi State canceled their game against the Sissy,
Yeah.
right?
They did. Got scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a question in the chat. Is it better to get season tickets as an out-of-town fan or to donate to the Fear the Wave collective the same amount? I have an answer. I would say Fear the Wave collective because a lot of times when we have popular games and there's season tickets for that are bought from out-of-town fans, we don't end up actually getting anyone into the stadium for that seat. But yeah, what do you think, Nick?
Most definitely. I mean, season tickets are very, very good for the program, but a lot of things happen that you can't control, such as not being able to make that game or, the weather. It's a lot of factors that go into that, but I feel like what will make the most immediate impact is really donating to the collective.
Yeah,
Jack,
definitely.
Jack, I had a question. Do you have the Nick Anderson football card, or did you give it away?
I think I gave it away. I should have given it to you, Nick. Yeah, I don't know if you remember this. There was like a trading card company that made like prints for y'all and had y'all sign them at the Cotton Bowl.
Okay.
So I got like a set of all of those cards with like what are they called? NFTs, like all the pictures were NFTs. And and I had a signed one of you, but I think I might have given it to Green Wave Man actually. When he won our weekly pick'em challenge. That was the prize. They got a limited edition Tulane football card. Yeah. Green Wave Man, if you're still in the chat, let me know if that's the one that I gave you. All right. Any other questions, Reed?
I got one more. So last year, obviously, you guys had a really long break before the Cotton Bowl. This year, it's not as long, but it's still, 3-4 weeks. What does your schedule look like during that time? Do you get a week off? Are you out of pads for a week, or how do you ramp up to get ready for the game?
Most definitely. Last year, I feel like we took some time off the first week. The second and third week, we ramped up practice. And then after that, we went home a couple days for Christmas and came right back the day after Christmas. This year they play on the 27th, so they're gonna be up in Maryland for Christmas. But I would definitely say you should pull back on the guys just a little bit, considering injuries and things that they have played a long season. But you do got to have at least a couple practices where you're still thudding and, you know, still being physical, because that was one of the things that affected us last year in the Cotton Bowl. We hadn't tackled someone in a month. And so if playing USC, Caleb Williams, they forced a lot of missed tackles, which led to our defense not playing as good as we should have. So I definitely feel you got to have that emphasis of, still being physical, still teaching fundamentals during this time, and making any corrections that, you lacked at the end of the season.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I mean, a month is a long time, right? That's like what, almost half of a college football season, it feels like. What's up, Isaac? How's it going?
Hey, how you guys doing? What's up, Nick?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing well, thanks. Sorry I couldn't jump on until now.
It's all right, man.
How's the vibe on campus, or how are the students feeling about the news?
I think I'd be lying if I'd say the vibes aren't great right now. Yeah, I think students are really feeling the effect of Coach Fritz leaving. Definitely the chatter today in class between the game and Fritz leaving, which I think a lot of students are starting to tie to Coach Fritz. I think a lot of students are happy for Fritz to get this opportunity in Houston, but disappointed he didn't stay to get the all-time wins record at Tulane. And I think a lot of students are disappointed that they're not going to see some of their fan favorites like Chris Brazzell back next year, fearful of guys like Mackay and others who might join in the portal, but excited for what's to come next season and for the guys like Tyler Grubbs who have said they'll be back next season, along with guys like Cam Pettisclo who have said they'll play in the Military Bowl.
Yeah, I think it's hard to stay positive, but for me, I'm just telling myself, Tulane these past 2 years have given me no reason to really doubt them. And, even if a player enters a transfer portal, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're gone. So I don't know. I think there's a ton to look forward to. And I I wanted to ask Jack you about this. Do you think it's a good idea to hire a coach like right away? I know they announced it was only going to be a week, or they're going to hire a new coach this week.
Yeah, absolutely. The sooner the better. I think you got to show that we've got a plan, right? Because I mean, Nick, a kid's committing to a school. He's like spending what he's worked his whole life for, those most important years to play at a school. You need to know what the plan is for you and for the program, and how you're going to be used, and like just how you're going to develop, right? So you need to hire a coach. You need to hire a coach that's going to be able to communicate to the players on the roster why it's beneficial to stay at Tulane, and a coach that's going to communicate to players off of the roster in the portal or high school recruits that have already committed or are thinking about committing that, Tulane is the place to be still. And kind of a thought about just the college football landscape in general. It really sucks how teams that are playing in a conference championship game have like a week less kind of to get their ducks in a row. I mean, it's awesome that they're playing in a conference championship game. That's definitely a super consolation prize. But it's like all these teams start tampering around with players in the portal and recruits and coaches and staff members and everything before the season's over. I think that has to change. I think the NCAA has got to do something about that.
Nick, were you ever I don't know if you can talk about it, but were you ever approached while you were at Tulane by another school to go somewhere else?
Most definitely.
I'm sure. Wasn't sure if you could talk about it.
Especially after I blew up the 2020 season, I definitely received multiple offers going into the 2021 season. And then even after that, prior to the season that we had last year, I received offers from schools in December and also in May to come join their programs. But I just couldn't, as a captain, you can't turn your back on your guys. And just my loyalty to the program, my loyalty to the culture that I helped establish, I just couldn't see myself walking away from that. And luckily it paid off.
What was it like? Did people like go through your high school coaches or just text you, or what did it look like?
I mean, some of the coaches were bold. They just called me.
Yeah, they just
Some of
straight
the
up
coaches
called
were
you.
bold. Some of the coaches had old coaches reach out. Um, yeah, I mean, that's just the reality of the game that we're in. Um, but I mean, like, it just comes down to I was just one of those people that really stood on my principles, knew what I wanted, and knew that I had to get my degree as well. I can't say me having my degree would have just changed my decision to not leave, but it definitely played a huge factor in me saying, man, I didn't work too hard to not get my degree. But when it came down to it, I was like, man, like I want to do it at Tulane. I don't want to go somewhere else and do it. I want to do it at Tulane. Why not Tulane? Like I've been busting my tail. We just had a horrible season. I'm not going out like this. Like I'm not gonna, walk away from the team, especially after the season we had. Now we had won and I got my degree, then okay, I could walk away saying that I contributed to the success of the program. But leaving after, we just lost like that, I was like, there's no way. I can't do it.
I'm looking forward to the 30 for 30 about that team and seeing you getting interviewed for that, because I mean, legitimately the biggest turnaround in college football history, and I don't know how that's ever going to get broken. As absolutely insane.
30 for 30 is going to be crazy. They have a clip of my infamous speech after the Southern Miss loss.
Yeah.
I don't have it, but they have it. I'm looking forward to them releasing that because that might have been the greatest speech I've given in my Tulane history. But it's crazy. I don't remember what I said.
Is there actually going to be a 30 for 30, Nick?
I don't know, man. I would hope so. I feel like we did have the greatest turnaround in FBS history. It has to be like we can't like they got to do something. Even if Tulane just produces it themselves, we got to have that for sure. I know the
Yeah.
guy.
Definitely deserved. I couldn't believe College Game Day never came by.
Oh man,
Oh my gosh.
don't get me started on that,
Yeah.
man.
Sorry. Definitely
MVOS
an incredible season.
MVOS is in chat and he has a really good documentary about that team. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like an hour long.
He does. You have to check it out. It's super well
Yeah,
done.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
I watched it. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty funny too.
Yeah, I can already see the catchphrase now. Like, what if I told you 0.1% was all the chance they needed? Nick, back on the topic of I guess tampering. uh, what would the process be? Would you just be like, hey coach, like some guy just tried to recruit me to another team, just want to let you know? Or what, I don't know. How did that go down after you got the call?
Um, I mean, I just Some coaches I didn't respond to because it was like, no, I'm not going to that school. Some coaches, um, I told her I'd think about it. Um, other some coaches actually reached out to some of the coaches on staff. So some of the coaches on staff actually knew that coaches
Really?
were seeking because I'm telling you, like coaches get bold. Like they
Yeah.
get bold and some coaches reached out and was like, hey man, I know y'all, had a tough season. More than likely, Nick might jump in the portal. Could you put in a word? So I mean, that's just the reality of college football that we're living in. I'm not the type of person to really throw anybody under the bus. So I wasn't gonna, just
Rat them out.
rat anybody out. Um, because at the end of the day, that coach is in a position to where he's trying to feed his family. He's trying to bring in talent. So it's always a different perspective to look things through before just making a decision. But I just like at the end of the day, I make the decision. Nobody's forcing me to make a decision. I make the decision, and I made the decision to stay.
Yeah, selfishly as a Tulane fan, I wish we could keep every player, and it's sad to see Chris Brazzell enter the transfer portal, but for him, he could have an amazing career at Alabama or something, and then it could really help him out. So selfishly, I want everyone to stay, but for some people, it's helps them and it's their path. And Chris Brazzell seems like a great dude. I don't wish nothing but the best for him.
Most definitely, and I'm proud of Chris. Chris has really, really matured a lot on the field and off the field, and he's very deserving of whatever is coming his way. And then you got to think the reality, him being a receiver, Pratt leaving,
Yeah.
and then losing Coach Fritz. I mean, I don't can't say I really blame him for his decision, even though it may not have been a decision I would have made. I can't really blame him for that. He's a young guy, got a promising career in front of him. So sometimes you got to do what's best for you. But I wish him the best of luck.
Yeah, he's been our guy since day one on the pod. Sad to see him enter the portal, but funny things happen, right? Maybe he'll find his way back, and you never know.
Jack, you invented Brazzle Dazzle.
I did. That was my thing. Razzle dazzle. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
So I got time for one more question before I
Yeah,
head out.
you've been super generous, Nick. I
Yeah,
really
thank you.
appreciate it. Isaac, you got anything?
Do you have one memory that stands out from your time at Tulane that you want to end your time on the podcast with? One special moment? Hard
Other
to
than the
pick one, I
championship.
know.
One special moment of me being at Tulane in general.
Yeah, it can be on or off the field.
Mm. Hmm. I would say the Mardi Gras after COVID. So the first Mardi Gras after COVID, that's one of my um favorite memories of Tulane because I actually got to really experience Mardi Gras um on Tulane's campus. My first year coming to Tulane and experience Mardi Gras, I was downtown with the locals. I want to say the second year was kind of the same ordeal because I really didn't have any friends outside of football to really experience the holiday with. But over the course of my time, I kind of came out my shell, got to know a lot of people around campus, and was able to experience Mardi Gras in 2022 for the first time of just being around campus. And I had a great time, man. That's one of the things that I really try to push the guys on the team to really understand that, the your peers, outside of the people you see every day, they are legitimately good people on that campus. Those are people that you can form relationships with and have them for the rest of your life, regardless of them playing the sport with you or not. And I've created some good bonds with people that I went to class with. A lot of those bonds came from, me just speaking to people and them saying, "Oh my God, you're talking to me," and I'm just like, "Man, I'm another person just like you." And this is something that I just push all across campus is just, students not being afraid to build relationships with the student athletes and the student athletes not being afraid to build relationships with the students, because at the end of the day, we all represent the university. And so that was something that I really enjoyed, and probably one of my favorite memories my last year at Tulane is really just being around people outside of football and being able to experience really just being a student at Tulane University, because it's dynamic, man.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. As a non-student athlete, I really appreciate my relationships with student athletes. And I was abroad, unfortunately, during the season last year, but I heard a lot of great stories of some of my friends getting some meals at the Green Wave Grill or the Commons, and all of a sudden Nick Anderson sits down with them and wants to hang out with them. So I know everything you're saying is true.
Definitely, man. Y'all have a blessed night, man. I appreciate y'all for having me on.
Hey,
Thank
you're
you
a
so
legend,
much,
Nick.
Nick.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Have a good one, Nick.
You too, roll with.
Roll wave.
Wave. Gosh, I feel so much better now. I feel like he just says it like it is, right? Calms you down.
No, one thing that kind of sticks with me is, there's so much negative outside noise, but he's talking about, if the players stick together and there's not some mass exodus, it's going to be the same team pretty much. I mean, we lose Pratt. Okay. But outside of that, it's going to be a very good team.
Yeah. I think, Fritz spent the last 8 years building a solid, deep program. A lot of talented players. It's an attractive place to play. So, yeah, there's a lot going for the university. Isaac, I think we have a transfer portal update. Maybe. Do you want to get into some of the players that maybe are confirmed in the portal, and then I don't know, maybe we can talk about guys we could be on the lookout for in the coming days.
Yeah, happy to do that. I've been taking a good look at that today. I do think that we're going to end up keeping a lot more guys than we expected. A lot of people really feared when Fritz left that we would lose a huge chunk of the roster. And to be fair, we are losing a ton of seniors. The players that I think are not returning based on senior day would be Sincere Haynesworth, Michael Pratt, Casey Glover, Valentino Ambrosio, Tahira Noor, Chris Carter, AJ Hampton, Jaquan Jackson, Lawrence Keys, Shedro Lewis, Ethan Marcus, Jarius Monroe, Cam Pettisclau, Prince Pines, Cam Wire, Andrew Wilkes, Noah Taliancich, Darius Swanson, Reed Rutkowski, and Lance Robinson. Almost all of those players played at least 5 seasons. So
You have to be
it should be very expected that we're losing all those guys. And a lot of those guys, some of them came over as grad transfers, like Cam Pettisclau, Cam Wire, but a lot of those guys gave us a lot of good years. We've seen Jaquan Jackson run routes here in Uptown for a long time. Obviously, Michael Pratt goes out saying 4-year starter. So a lot of players will be leaving, but I think a lot of players will stay. I've been informed that Tyler Grubbs informed us on Twitter that he will be returning next season for the Wave, which I think is huge. He'll have a chance to be a captain depending on what happens amongst the play. I mean, I don't know how the players feel, but my understanding is that he has a very good chance to be a captain. Either way, he's definitely a leader on this team. We could get a guy like Patrick Jenkins back. I'm not really sure. And I think there's a lot of players that are going to use their extra year of eligibility, enroll in grad school, get a second degree from Tulane. Maybe Ethan Hudak's one of those. Probably some of the other guys on the defense. DJ Douglas has been in school since before I have. He started at Alabama, but he still has an extra year of eligibility. So that's a name along with the guys like Keith Cooper that I would try to make sure Tulane retains. So far, there's only 3 players in the portal. There's a lot of schools with 8, 9, 10 players in the portal, but Tulane only has 3 at the moment, it's still very early, but a very good sign so far. And I think it was talked about earlier, but all 3 players are in the portal for different circumstances. Chris Brazel has a million Power Five offers. There's heavy rumors of him going to Michigan, Washington, even following Dannon, Baylor. So hard to complain about Brazel going into the portal. Carson Haggard, the arguably four-string quarterback, is in the portal. I'm sure he just wants to find somewhere he could play. And then Kai Horton as well. Not sure what the thinking is there, but I guess wants to ensure that he is a starting quarterback somewhere. We'll probably see a lot more players in the portal, but if we can keep guys like Devin Deal, obviously Makai Hughes, um, the Keith Coopers of the world, and even the young guys like Matthew Fobbs White, Kevin Adams, Rashawn Pleasant, Kentrell Webb still has 3 years of eligibility left. If we can keep Shadre Hurst has 3 years of eligibility left, that's a big one. He filled in admirably this season. If we can keep those guys, then Tulane's going to be in very, very good shape, especially with SMU leaving for the ACC and now no Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that guys who have already transferred to Tulane have a higher chance of staying, if you want to look at it that way, because it's a little more complicated for them to transfer a second time. So Patrick Jenkins, came in from TCU. Grubbs, obviously, from Louisiana Tech, already announced he's staying. DJ Douglas from Alabama, guys like that. Maybe Tulane has a better chance of keeping those guys around, since I think they have to have a cause for transferring a second time. That's the new NCAA rule.
Right.
But
My understanding is that those players would have to sit out a year if they're going to
right,
go to another school. So
right,
Keith Brown would fit into that
right.
category, although I think he's a player that would probably stay anyway, has a good chance to be the number one
Yep.
wide receiver next year, and Douglas as well into that category.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, Fritz has recruited super well. Both Fritzes have, and we've got a lot of super talented young guys on the roster who can step up and can be really good players for the Wave. If you're concerned about losing them, donate to Fear the Wave Collective, honestly. That's the best way to keep them. And we're not affiliated with Fear the Wave. Just, talking with those guys and understanding how the process works, that's what we can do. Point blank, just pay them.
There's 3 players I feel like Green Wave fans haven't really seen yet that could be massive players. We produced a lot of guys this season that Tulane fans didn't really know about. Chris Brazel, redshirt freshman last year, Makai Hughes obviously out with an injury. These are some of our stars. And on the defensive end too, we didn't see a ton of DJ Douglas last year. We didn't see a ton of Bailey Despaney. Jesus Machado playing behind some great linebackers. So there's going to be players on this roster that will be stars at this time next year. A couple players I think could be in that category. Matthew Fobbs White on the D line, replacing a guy like Darius Jet Hodges, who's going to the draft, and potentially some other players that might go to the draft or transfer in Jenkins and Cooper. And then on the offensive side of the ball, due to Barnes, in case Makai Hughes hits the transfer portal, hopefully not, but with a guy who leads the country in rushing yards for a freshman, it's hard to argue with him leaving. So if he were to unfortunately leave, then I think Duda Barnes would be a very good, if not equal replacement potentially for Makai Hughes. And a third name I want to point out that Tulane fans might not be super familiar with would be Corey Platt. He only played 1 game this season before going down with an injury, had 15 tackles in week 1 against South Alabama. So if Corey Platt can recover from injury, it was a bad injury, so we'll end up seeing about that. But if he can come back strong, he is going to be a defensive stud next year.
Yeah, Corey Platt's definitely the guy I'm looking out for.
Yeah.
Throw in an extra. I think he had a sack and a half too. Nick Anderson was talking about him. He's an animal, so he'd be really exciting to see come back. I think for my own sanity, I'm going to assume that every single player is staying until I see something otherwise. I don't think it helps to speculate like, oh, maybe this player might leave because of this opportunity or whatever. I'm assuming this team, they're strong together. They're going to stick together. And we should be, if you're eligible, you should be coming back. And I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think that's a good assumption, Reed.
So we had a question: who's going to be the quarterback of the Green Wave next year? I don't think.
Will Howard.
Yeah, as sad as it seems, I don't think Michael Pratt will be back. He's accepted an invite to the Senior Bowl. I anticipate him going to the Senior Bowl and entering the draft process, especially with some of the high profile guys like Quinn Ewers and Bo Nix opting to stay in college another year. I think Michael Pratt is an NFL quarterback. I think he's ready to do that. Kai Horton's obviously transferred. Carson Haggard has entered the transfer portal. That leaves Justin Ibieta, Darian Mensah, and then we have a recruit who committed to Tulane back over the summer. Let me pull his name up real quick.
We also have Jack Risner on the roster too.
We do. Yeah. I mean, to be totally honest, I don't think that our starting quarterback is on the roster currently. I think it's going to be somebody from the transfer portal or a true freshman. There are so many quarterbacks entering the portal. Kyle McCord, Dylan Gabriel, Will Howard, we mentioned, the guy from Miami who has a 3-word name who's
Van Dykes.
Yeah.
Van Dynes.
Van Dyne. There's a lot of guys. Kellen Tasby, that's the quarterback commit we have. 6'5", 195 from Plano, Texas, right up the road from me. So we'll see. I don't think the quarterback's on the roster. And it's really going to depend on who we hire as a coach, right? They're going to want to bring in a guy who can play this type of style that he wants to play. So that would be my answer to your question, Green Wave man. Any other questions for us? Let us know in the chat.
There's a few players that I identified on Twitter, one already and another one coming from University of Louisiana. Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
That I think we should keep an eye on in the portal. The first is Cyrus Allen. Jordan Sullen beat me to this one. He's a wide receiver from Louisiana Tech, had 46 catches for 778 yards this season, ranked second in the country last season with an average of 22.7 yards per catch. He's from Louisiana, from New Orleans, went to Landry High School here. He was the 17th best player in the whole state in the class of 2021. Unfortunately for us, he's already got 6 Power 5 offers, but would love to see Tyler Grubbs, his former teammate and local New Orleanian, recruit him down here to New Orleans and play for the Wave next season. And then another teammate of Cyrus Allen's would be one of their offensive linemen. Gonna need a second to get the name, sorry. But one of their starting offensive linemen also hit the portal, Carson Bruno. So that could be a big get, especially because Prince Pines and Cam Wire used up their eligibility. They're graduating or graduating with a second degree, maybe in Cam Wire's case. And then as a grad transfer, and then Sincere Haynesworth will be headed to the NFL draft. So we need to replace at least 3 offensive linemen. That's the current situation with Rashad Green and Remitich coming back. Hurst, in my mind, was a starter this season, so that fills one of the spots. But either way, you still are going to need, no matter what, you're still going to need to fill 2 starting spots. And Bruno's from Shreveport, Louisiana, so he's not a New Orleans kid, but maybe he does want to stay in state and play for a bigger program in the AAC.
Yeah, we had a good question. I don't think we've explicitly answered this one yet, but David Wen asked, anyone in particular you'd like to see as head coach? I think that John Summerall, the Troy head coach, would be an awesome hire. He has a history at Tulane. He's coached here. He knows what it takes to win here. And he's built a dominant program in the Sun Belt, which a lot of people think was the best G5 conference this season. So he's only getting paid $1 million to be the head coach of Troy. I think that he would probably, I don't know the guy, but I think he would probably welcome a return to the AAC and a return to Tulane. I think we could provide him with the resources that he needs to build another successful program, just like he did at Troy, with a chance to compete in a playoff, maybe in the college football playoff.
Yeah, it seems like the home run hire, the main target, also has very close ties with Sheil Woods. Would be nice to retain him. And Troy, I think I saw on Twitter, they're 23-4 in the past 2 years. So pretty darn good.
Just like us.
Just like us. So he seems like the number one target. There's a lot of fun options out there that, would be cool if we win, but would really suck if we lose. Coach O comes to mind, and that will never happen because he's getting paid so much money. But I agree. I think Summerall is the number one target, and hopefully we find out pretty soon.
Yeah, not only are they 23-3, not as good a turnaround as what Willie Fritz did here, but they were 5-7, 5-6, and 5-7 in the 3 years before Sumrall got there. It's amazing how fast he turned that around. He went from 5 wins to 12 in his first season. He's very young. Again, I like the idea of the Troy connection, hopefully keeping Shield Wood and having been on the staff here, not just for 1 year, but a handful of years. I do think there's a lot of good options out there, and I trust the national search firm, but I think Summerall could be good. Another thing about having an active head coach come along is that he could bring a lot of his guys. A lot of the players
Yeah.
that were successful at Troy, I believe they're the fifth highest ranked G5 team, only behind us, SMU, Liberty, and Toledo,
Yeah.
or are they fourth right now?
It might be above Toledo after their loss.
I think so. They got a lot of votes in the AP poll. So if he can bring a lot of those players, that could help us and help to retain our own. Either way, I think we need to make a move quickly. I know it's very difficult to make such an important decision so fast, but with the current situation of the rules of NIL, transfer portal, unfortunately, you just have to move fast.
Yeah, can't take your time. If we're having this conversation next week, we're probably going to be talking about a lot more players transferring away and some of our recruits not signing their letter of intent because they don't know who the coach is going to be. So, Fitz put out a statement that says they're going to hire a coach within the next 24 hours or something, 48 hours. So we'll see. Hopefully that's the case.
He did, or if?
He said that some reporter, maybe it was Garland, said that it will be in the next 48 hours, but he said within the week, and so did David Harris.
Wow, that's very fast. I saw that a car was parked in the AD spot, and I know David Harris was here for the weekend. So I think that means that, by the way, it was a new car. I think that means that David Harris is in town, which is exactly what we love to see, even though he doesn't start his role officially until 2024 in January. He's here working hard, making sure the Wave can rebuild. Well, don't have to rebuild and can just
Right.
kind of retool really quickly to be able to retain what we have. There's a lot of talent on this roster. There's a lot of talent on the coaching staff. There's a lot of talent on the support staff and guys like Kurt Hester and strength and conditioning. And there's also a lot of talent in our recruits. So we need to make sure we don't lose any of those four.
Great insight, Isaac. All right. I think we're going on almost an hour and a half now. So Reed, what do you think?
Yeah, you want to record a quick wrap up here?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, thanks everyone so much for listening to the Uptown Update. A really awesome episode. Great to talk to Nick for almost an hour. He was super generous with his time. Isaac, as always, super special to have you on. You have great insight, doing a great job, giving us the inside scoop and the voice of the student body. Reed, it's been a pleasure. It's been an awesome season. We've got one more game to cover. Yeah, roll Wave.
Roll Wave.
Roll Wave.
Good stuff.
Sweet. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I definitely agree, David. It's a pivotal moment, and hopefully the administration gets it right. They need to. They definitely need.
That made me feel better. I hope everyone else is feeling better out there, especially you, Green Wave man. We need you.
I feel better. I'm glad I asked that question, Nick. He's amazing.
Yeah, he is. All right. Signing off.
See you guys.
See y'all.